Hey folks, welcome back to FreepCast. My name is Robb Murray. I'm the features editor here, and I'm here not with Joe Spear. I'm here today with Brian Arola, our top-notch reporter of many beats. How's it going, Brian?
Good. Reporter of many beats, anyway.
Reporter of many beats. We should mention before we go any further that this podcast is sponsored by Minnesota Valley Federal Credit Union, happily serving those who live, work, and do business in Blue Earth, Nicollet, LeSueur, Waseca, Brown, or Watonwan counties since 1934. How's that for a reading of the sponsorship ad?
Strong run.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So let's get into some of the news. Before we get into the stuff that we have reported, let's talk about some of the folks in the valley today may have heard a giant boom rumbling through the valley. If you didn't know what that was, we're here to tell you it was the beginning of the end of the bridge that crosses the river where all the action was for the Rapidan Dam. You weren't there, were you, Brian?
I was not. We had our photo editor, Casey Eck, out there, but we all, over the last year, 6 months, I think it was in June, so however long it's been since then, we've all in the newsroom probably done something or another related to that part of our coverage area. So, yeah. We
have all done something. And actually, this might be a good time to mention the team coverage we did for that. When all the news broke that day, we won an award at the Minnesota Newspaper Association convention last weekend.
Yeah, and the last week's episode, I think, was live from the conference up there and got to talk about some of our awards. And the Rapidan situation probably did lend itself to a lot of good coverage for the local organization closest to that.
That was kind of fun for me. I haven't been on the news team for a long time. I do a lot of feature stuff. I cover a lot of the arts coverage. But that day I kind of got, when big news happens, we all get kind of drawn into whatever the big thing that's happening that day. And when something that big happens, we all kind of get pulled in. So it was fun for me to return to the news side of the operation. Crazy story. We also had the intern that day.
That's right. Yeah, what an experience. Yeah.
And I think on the award we got, I think her name is on there, Callie Hadler.
Yeah, really good experience for an up and coming journalist.
I just remember how freaked out she was that day. I think she'd been here a couple of weeks and was told to go to the Rapidan Dam, and her response was, "What? We have a dam here?" Yeah,
and you mentioning the boom too. What people may have heard this morning brings me back to the boom where we had the earthquake situation. It was kind of a similar day for the newsroom where everyone was sort of deployed to different parts of the area to get information and figure out what was going on. So similar kind of situations where the whole newsroom was all hands on deck, needing to respond to this breaking news situation.
Those are kind of fun. I mean, we all get in this line of work to do that, to be able to run to wherever the action is and tell the stories of the people in our community. So hopefully you'll see something in the paper tomorrow. It might even be online right now. I mean, if you're listening to this, it's probably the next day, but it's probably in your paper right now about what went on today at the site of the dam. In some other news, Brian, you were the guy covering this story about the wrongful death lawsuit relating to the tragic death of the young man at the Mankato Falls. You want to talk about that?
Yeah, so this was expected to a certain extent. You can see in court records when someone is appointed a next of kin. That happened a while back where this 19-year-old MSU student, Jack Loso, his mother was appointed next of kin, I think in the fall. So once that happens, it's sort of a sign that they may be planning something. And I think there were just murmurs of a lawsuit coming down the line. What the lawsuit essentially says is that the DNR encouraged and didn't warn people about the dangers of landslide risks at Mankato Falls. So by encouragement, they cite the steps that go down there are open. There's sort of a trail. There's some signs that point toward it. And the lawsuit alleges that that is a encouragement to go there despite what they claim is knowledge of landslide risk. And in this incident, this Jack, 19-year-old, was there on December 2nd, 2023, went to the falls like so many people have. I know I've been there many a time. And the worst case scenario happened. Rocks fell, and he tragically lost his life that day. So this is a wrongful death suit seeking some damages related to that for emotional distress caused by that tragedy.
And as per usual, any civil case like that, they say seeking damages in excess of $50,000, because by state law you can't state any more than $50,000 in any civil case. They may want a lot more. I'm sure they do.
Yeah, likely. And for the DNR's perspective, they offered condolences, didn't comment on it any further. There should be likely an answer to that lawsuit where we'll get to hear a little bit more about what the state and DNR, whether they dispute what's in the lawsuit and where they're coming at from a defense angle. It should be closely watched, that case, given how popular Minneopa is. It's probably the biggest site and attraction in our area. Can't think of any others that would likely be above that. Very highly visited park. I think one of the top 10 in the state, and Minneopa Falls is really a really recognizable feature in our area. So a lot of people have been there and can relate to being in that area and following that same path that this young man did that day.
You know, my family's gone down there many times. We take the dogs down there. We go down as far as we can, get to the falls, and it's a lot of fun. And whenever we've gone there, there's been a dozen other people. I think it's gonna be a bummer if the state decides it's too risky to let anyone go down there anymore. And not taking sides or anything, but there will be a robust debate about personal responsibility versus the state's responsibility to keep everybody safe. So,
yeah, that'll be one of the probably most closely watched parts of it, is what will become of that area, if people will be allowed to go down there long term after this, or the state decides not to do it, depending on the outcome of the case.
Yeah. We'll mention once again here that the podcast is sponsored by Minnesota Valley Federal Credit Union, a fine credit union. Brian, you ever been there?
I have.
Do you bank there?
I got a car loan through them.
There you go. Great guys down there, giving out car loans to poor reporters.
And I believe we've done some stories over the years. So they've sponsored events and done various things that we've covered over the years.
So let's move on to the next story we're talking about today. Is a personal favorite of mine, which is the Mankato Brewery, just a few blocks from my house. I really, really enjoyed how close it was. It was very easy to go down there and enjoy some of their beers and then walk home. So, I know you've been there. What are your thoughts on losing what a lot of folks think is a great asset to the community?
It's not the only brewery that Minnesota has lost. I'm sure around the country there's been quite a few. So it seems like there was a big expansion. A ton of breweries popped up, and then there's sort of a reeling back of that now as some are finding the industry really competitive and tough. And I think it seems like Mankato Brewery was part of that reeling back. I went to a tour just a couple days before it closed with the founder. Very, very fun tour. Got to hear a little bit of the backstory. Got to try some really, really nice beer aged in whiskey barrels, which was really, really tasty. But I think one thing the founder mentioned is that they were, I think, the 20th brewery in the state to open. So at the time there were only 20, and I think there were over 200, maybe even 300 breweries in recent years. So it really, really expanded greatly, and now we're seeing a little bit of a scaling down of that around the state. Yeah,
in the Mankato magazine, we had a lengthy piece by we have a great beer writer, James Figge, who did a piece on this very topic, on how a lot of them are not making it, scaling back. There may have been an oversaturation, maybe in the public's appetite for craft beer, but Mankato, we only have 2, and now we have 1. And I feel like a city this size could probably support more than 1, but we'll see. The other one being, of course, Locale, which Brian and I have met at several times. a fine brewery. What are some other breweries you go to, Brian, in the area?
Yeah, going to breweries is something I enjoy doing in my free time. Shell's, I've always liked Shell's as a nice regional beer or a brewery with, I think, good quality beer, very traditionally heavy German beer. I do like locale. The St. Peter ones. So as Mankato lost a brewery, St. Peter got up to 2. So both of theirs I've enjoyed. Tremendous and Paddlefish. And then within the wider region, Waseca has 2, I believe. Mm-hmm. One in Waseca itself, and then one in rural Waseca. So kind of every brewery in the wider region, we are still lucky to have a good number of them, and I like a good deal of them. Pretty much any brewery I like visiting and just checking out what they have and seeing the tap room. It's a fun hobby.
I joked the last time we heard about this story that we should just move the newsroom down to the Mankato Brewery tap room, turn that into the newspaper. Didn't go very far.
We were down there quite a bit, though.
We were down there quite a bit. Not, maybe not working, but or maybe we were working.
Sometimes for stories, though, they would come out with some. I especially like their designs on their cans. I thought they had a really nice artistic approach to that, which I appreciated. And it was fun when they would come out with a themed one or a charitable one with a new design. They were really
some of
really
the best. Some of the best beer can designs, I think, in the business. Just fun ones. They look like superheroes, especially the one for Jonathan Ziert.
Yeah.
Rest in peace, Jonathan. Mm-hmm. I like going to Half Pint in Waseca.
Yeah, very nice. So that one's the rural one.
It's very rural. You can see where they're growing the hops out there, kind of on the side of it. If you go through in the summer, but the best part of going there is you can order pizza from the Pleasant Grove Pizza Farm.
Yeah, the Pleasant Grove Pizza Farm is a real gem.
They will deliver only to the brewery, so it's a nice perk for them. In sports news, we will not talk about Maverick hockey, but we will talk about the MSU dance team, which I think if you ask them, and I have asked them, how they feel about maybe not getting the attention they deserve or they think they deserve from the university or from the media, and they think that they should get more. They won a couple more national titles the other day. Are you a fan of the dance team, Brian? You ever watch them compete?
I've not. I have read about their success, and I think it's especially now. I think there's a lot more interest in women's athletics, which is really cool. With some of the NCAA basketball, a lot of newsworthy things happening from there, and then WNBA had a really exciting season with our Minnesota Lynx going far and should have won despite really rough refereeing.
Ooh.
Yeah,
calling out the refs.
It was pretty bad. I think universally accepted outside of New York.
Is that the consensus?
I think so. Outside of New York, where they benefited from it, but it's just really cool to see. I think women's athletics get a spotlight, and with MSU, we had the women's basketball team there win the national title, and they're having another great season. And the dance team now continuing their success. So
the dance team
cool
has been really good for a number of years, and I'm really glad that. We covered them again, and I know the student newspaper covered them as well. They do deserve it. I was at a women's hockey game. Of course, I'm a Badgers fan, so when the Badgers were in town, I went to the women's game. There were more Badger fans than Maverick fans. Not a good showing for the local team there. So, what do you think it'll take to get more people interested in our one and only Division I sport for women in this town?
I do think over time it will become more popular, just as there's more focus on the top level of women's sports. WNBA, U.S. soccer is really popular. I think as those become more ingrained in our I guess consciousness, there's more investment in that. I think it'll come down at every level from there, and the hope is that at some point it can draw a lot of fans and have that same level of interest as the men's team has.
It was a really good game. Of course, the Badgers crushed them, but
they're highly ranked always, aren't they?
I think they're still number one.
Yeah.
Really good program. Has been for a long time. But yeah, I really wish there would be more people coming to watch women's sports. I think that's all we have, unless you have anything else you want to add or talk about or what you're working on. What are you working on these days, Brian?
Today I'll be going to the Center for Rural Behavioral Health at MSU. So their new center that they opened up with support from Blue Cross and Blue Shield, a big pledge of money there. So they're going to be seeing patients and also being a bit of a training center for students. So get to go there to an open house, see how that's going in its early days of existence, and be going over there with Casey for photos and a story.
Casey, the man who was filming us today, is that same Casey?
That's right, the man behind the camera.
Man behind the camera who chose not to join us today on the podcast. No, it's fine, Casey. It's fine.
He carried the weight last week from the remote.
That's true. He did.
On-site Minnesota Newspaper Association convention.
Very resourceful. It was very impressive. Thanks, Casey. That'll do it. We'll just mention one last time here that we are sponsored by the Minnesota Valley Federal Credit Union, happily serving those who live, work, or do business in Blue Earth, Nicollet, Le Sueur, Waseca, Brown, or Watonwan counties since 1934. Give them your business. They're good folks. Otherwise, that'll do it for us, folks. We will see you next time. Thank you.